So we're going to dive into something today that could really shake things up in the financial world.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking central banks and Bitcoin. You got that right?
Definitely sounds like a recipe for a financial earthquake.
We've been digging through research reports, news articles, all sorts of stuff.
The whole shebang.
Yeah, all about the Czech National Bank, and they've got people talking with their interest in Bitcoin. It's pretty eyebrow-raising.
It is, for sure. And it's caught a lot of people's attention, and you can see why. I mean, central banks and Bitcoin, you usually think of those as totally separate worlds.
Yeah, totally.
So the fact that they might be coming together is fascinating.
Right. Okay, so at the center of this story, we've got Aleš Mitchell. He's the governor over at the Czech National Bank, and he's not running away from Bitcoin.
He's not afraid of it at all.
No, not at all. He's actually suggesting they add it to the bank's reserves. Can you believe that?
Yeah, it is pretty wild. But, what I find interesting is that Mitchell isn't treating this like some get-rich-quick scheme.
Right.
He seems genuinely interested in what makes Bitcoin tick, its technology, how it could impact things.
I was reading about that. He's even comparing the crypto market today to something from the Czech Republic's past. Back in the 90s, when they were switching from socialism to capitalism.
Yeah, he sees a connection there.
Okay, so how does that even work? What's the link?
Well, he sees these boom and bust cycles in both cases. Back then, when the Czech Republic was transitioning, there was this huge surge of new funds.
I can imagine.
Some did well, others went bust. And Mitchell sees the same thing happening in the crypto market now, kind of like it's going through growing pains, maturing.
So he's not just fixated on the price going up and down every other minute.
No, he's looking at the bigger picture, the underlying evolution of the whole market.
Yeah, I get it. It's like he's thinking long-term, not just trying to make a quick buck.
Exactly. And you can see this mindset in his proposal for a test portfolio for Bitcoin. It's almost like he's dipping his toes in the water first.
Testing the waters?
Exactly. Trying to understand Bitcoin, see how it behaves before going all in.
Smart, but we are talking about a central bank here.
Right. It's not a small-time operation.
No. Big financial implications.
For sure. We're talking about the Czech National Bank. They handle over $146 billion in reserves, and they're thinking of putting some of that into Bitcoin.
And not just a tiny amount either. They've mentioned a figure of $7.3 billion.
Wow.
That's a serious chunk of their reserves. And in the Bitcoin world, that's a huge amount too.
5% of their total reserves, to be exact.
That's crazy. And did you see that? It would be like buying up 5.3 months worth of all the newly mined Bitcoin. Pretty mind-boggling when you think about it like that.
It really puts things into perspective.
Definitely. Okay, so Bitcoin's been pretty volatile in the past, we all know that. But last year, it had this amazing 130% return. Hard to ignore numbers like that.
Absolutely. You can see why institutions might be looking at Bitcoin, maybe to diversify their portfolios, maybe to hedge against inflation, who knows.
So we've got this central bank, they're kind of flirting with the idea of Bitcoin, but I'm guessing not everyone's on board with this, right?
You're absolutely right. Not everyone's thrilled about this idea.
Yeah.
Christine Lagarde, she's the president of the European Central Bank, and she's not convinced.
This is where it gets interesting. What's her take?
She's pretty old school when it comes to central banking.
I could imagine.
Thinks reserves should be kept in assets that are stable, easy to trade, and definitely no connection to any shady stuff like money laundering. That's a big no-no for her.
So basically, she sees Bitcoin as way too risky, too much of a wild card for a central bank to even think about.
Exactly. And she's not keeping it to herself either.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she actually spoke directly to Michel about it, voiced her concerns.
Huh. I wonder how that conversation went.
Well, from what I've read, it doesn't sound like they exactly see eye to eye on this one.
You think there's some tension there? Between these two financial powerhouses?
Oh, I'm sure there's a difference of opinion, you can bet on that. And it's not just Lagarde either.
Okay, who else is pushing back?
Well, you've got the Czech finance minister, his name's Zbyněk Stanjura, and he's also a bit cautious about Bitcoin.
Why's that?
Mainly because of how volatile it is. The price swings all over the place.
Yeah, Bitcoin's famous for that.
Right, and Stanjura believes central banks should represent stability, which Bitcoin really doesn't.
So you've got the head of the European Central Bank and the Czech finance minister both saying, whoa, slow down on this Bitcoin idea. That's got to be putting some pressure on Mikkel, don't you think?
Oh, there's definitely pushback. And it's not just coming from the top brass either. You've got some analysts out there ringing alarm bells too.
Really? Why's that?
Don't worry about the risks that come with Bitcoin. And, it clashes with what the ECB thinks. Their whole stance is that Bitcoin has zero intrinsic value.
Okay, hang on a sec. You said intrinsic value. What does that even mean? For those of us who aren't finance experts.
You're right. That's a key idea here. So intrinsic value basically means what something is truly worth based on its core qualities.
I see.
Like how useful it is, or if it generates any income. Think of a company's stock. Its intrinsic value is tied to the company's earnings, its assets, how much it's growing. The ECB's view is that Bitcoin doesn't have any of that.
Oh, interesting.
So its value is basically all speculative. It's driven by what people believe it's worth, not anything concrete.
So they're saying Bitcoin's value is just like hype, based on what people think, not on anything real.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And that's a huge issue for a lot of traditional economists and financial institutions. They see Bitcoin as this big bubble that's going to burst any minute because it's not attached to anything real.
Got it. So we've got this clash of ideas. Mikkel sees potential in Bitcoin. Others like Lagarde and Stanjura are like, hold your horses. It feels like we're at a turning point in the financial world.
It's definitely a critical moment. And it's not just about the Czech Republic either.
Right. This is bigger.
This reflects a global debate about where cryptocurrencies fit in the whole financial system. Even if the CNB just does this test portfolio, it could have a ripple effect, make other central banks at least think about doing something similar.
It's like the Czech Republic is throwing this stone into the financial pond, and we're just waiting to see how far those ripples go.
That's a great way to put it. It reminds us that the financial world never stands still. It's always evolving. What seems crazy today might be totally normal tomorrow.
So what happens next? What are the possible endings to this whole Bitcoin and central bank drama?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Let's see. One possibility is the CNB goes ahead with this test portfolio despite all the concerns.
So they just go for it.
Yeah, and if they do that, it sends a strong message. Even the super cautious institutions are open to Bitcoin.
That would be huge for Bitcoin, wouldn't it? Could open the floodgates for other central banks?
Absolutely. But on the flip side, the CNB could decide it's too risky and just scrap the whole thing.
Yeah, just walk away.
That would definitely reinforce the idea that Bitcoin is too wild for central banking.
Probably wouldn't be good for the crypto market either.
No, probably not. But there's also a middle ground here.
Oh yeah? What's that?
Maybe they go ahead, but with a much smaller investment, dip their toes in, not the whole foot.
I see, like a baby step.
Exactly. Maybe as part of a bigger diversification strategy, it lets them get a feel for Bitcoin without making any huge moves.
So we're all just watching and waiting right now.
Pretty much.
Got these different scenarios, and whatever the CNB decides to do could have big consequences.
Absolutely. And remember, they're not making this decision in a vacuum.
Of course not.
You've got the global economy, regulations, even public opinion about Bitcoin. All that stuff plays a role.
This is like we're watching a financial thriller play out right in front of us,
Yeah, kind of.
Central bank considering Bitcoin, you've got these powerful figures saying no way, and it could change everything globally.
It is exciting, but I can see how it makes some people nervous.
Yeah, a little unsettling for sure. And it's not just the bigwigs at the central banks who should be paying attention.
Right.
Think about everyday people, like the folks listening to us right now.
Exactly, trying to figure out what it all means for their own wallets.
Right, we've been talking about central banks, billions of dollars flying around, but at the end of the day, this is going to affect individuals.
That's the key point. If central banks start holding Bitcoin, it could have this domino effect, touch everything.
Like what?
Inflation, interest rates, what our savings are worth, even how we buy groceries.
Yeah, it's like we're standing at the edge of something brand new, a whole new financial world.
It's definitely uncharted territory.
We can see the potential, but we have no idea what's out there, good or bad.
That's a great way to put it. And that's why these conversations are so important. We got to explore what's possible, weigh the risks and the rewards so we can make smart decisions about this new financial landscape.
And speaking of navigating this new landscape, it's not just central banks making waves in the crypto world.
Oh yeah, lots going on.
Look at what happened with Binance. They got that securities brokerage license in Brazil.
Huge win for them. Shows how crypto is getting more accepted, becoming part of the traditional financial system.
And Brazil's a big player, a major emerging market.
Exactly. So this could spread to other developing economies too.
I feel like all these stories, the Czech National Bank, Binance in Brazil, they're all connected somehow.
It does feel like it.
Like something's pushing the whole world towards this crypto-integrated future.
There's definitely momentum building. You can feel it. More and more institutions are getting involved with crypto, whether it's regulations, investments, or just acknowledging that it's here to stay.
So, bottom line for our listeners out there, why should they care about a central bank in Europe thinking about Bitcoin?
Because it's not just about Bitcoin. It's about money itself. It's about who holds the power in the global financial system and how all that impacts you and me, our financial well-being.
You're right. It's about understanding the forces that are shaping the future of finance.
The forces that will directly impact our lives, for sure.
Absolutely. It's about paying attention, asking questions, and helping to shape this new financial reality as it unfolds.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
We've covered a lot of ground today. The Czech National Bank and their bold idea, global leaders disagreeing, crypto platforms going mainstream. It's pretty clear that the financial world is about to go through a major transformation.
I think so. And this deep dive, hopefully it's given our listeners some food for thought, some insights into this crazy world of finance.
It's a wild ride, that's for sure. But this is just the beginning of the conversation.
Absolutely.
The future of money, it's being decided right now. So stay curious, stay informed, keep asking those questions. That's the best way to make sense of it all.
Couldn't agree more.